All right. You know what? I'll use.
Okay, welcome councillors and staff. This meeting is being audio recorded. Those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. There should be no other recording of this meeting without prior authorisation of the committee. Okay, apologies.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Councillor Burns and Councillor Watts also.
Moved Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, the Corporate Services Committee held on the 16th of April. Someone in attendance move those minutes? Move Councillor Fisher. I'll move and second them. All in favour? Against? Carried. Declarations of interest? Nil? Okay. Okay, straight over to the business items. CORP 05.1, update on native title assessments.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This report just provides a summary of where we're up to in terms of the state title assessments and development plans for management. It's for information only. Obviously, there's a number of properties that are affected by that title. Also interesting to note is, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Gomeroi had a potential claim over about 20% of the state, so included in the Shire. So that could be years and years sorting out. So just to put it into context, the original date is 30th June to have all these plans completed. I don't know if that target nor probably not submitted that data in November. Sure. We should
Yeah, it's incredible, man. Claims. Over a lot of the infrastructure and Shire.
native title exists on Crown land. Distinguished by previous activity. Something been there for since the late 70s. There is a date that is extinguished, but there's something called Future Act. If it has been extinguished and then you build something new, that becomes a Future Act, and it can re-trigger a native title, which can be compensated.
So is it what the
Where do the funds come to be compensated with if it's on the Shire land? Council.
Yeah, it's not only compensation, it can be a right to use the land for hunting and fishing and recreation, those types of things. The signage, though, it's not always monetary compensation. Another way is to provide Aboriginal employment. That's often something that's negotiated during this process. It's not always a monetary payment. It's actually very complicated.
so that bit of business that happened during the elections that are coming up, like Murray Bain and Jefferson Park, are going to be sold. Where does that come from? Well, that was one of the candidates put it on there that, Jefferson Park and Murray Bain was mentioned on there.
That's in the argument in that
The government's going to sell.
That's on the register of state government. But I'm looking for expression of interest,
Anyway, okay, any more questions on that? We'll just go to the council note, the report.
etc. Just on page 6, the Stone Park, what's that?
Oh, that's just the development of the land management. There's no what it says.
Yeah, but what is Stone Park?
Football.
Football
Tennis
field.
court.
through the chair, if I may, just a little bit of information. So Daniel Blackadder, who's obviously driving this body of work, attended native title manager training on Tuesday. So there will be obviously further information and an update on it. And my offering here is there's about 128 LGAs across New South Wales. And the reason that we're not getting any response is because they are under-resourced and they've been absolutely swamped. So I think we are not the odd one out here. I think most other LGAs are experiencing exactly what we are, which is no feedback. Rather concerning, given that we've got a deadline of June next year to get this completed. So I just want to raise that.
We're fairly confident that there's no way, particularly since it's been done.
Okay, we'll move it, note the report, move Councillor Campbell, second Fisher. Did you nod? Yes. Over. Against? Carried. Over to page 72, on your summary and investment report. Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just a summary provided. If you look at pages 73 through to 76, summary of the financial position of the council as of the end of April 2021. So we'll just quickly go through the high level numbers coming through. So the actuals to budget is a positive variance at the moment in April of 1.78 million compared to about 1.82 in March. Again, it more or less comes back to the capital works area, a little bit behind in that area there. So we'll just go through the main items that are of note coming through. So with the revenue of the council, it's pretty well nearly spot on target overall, but inside that variation there's a number of ups and downs. So obviously children's services revenue is lower by about $120,000, $125,000, and it's really with the utilisation of the facilities at ELC and Kelly Daycare at the moment, just lower than expected. Lingering effects of COVID, and also we've just got a position vacant over there for an early childhood teacher. So it's a little bit underutilised at the moment at the ELC. There's increased publicity though to progress the services along, so hopefully they'll pick up over the course of the next period of time. Sale yards revenue, as we've spoken about before, it's lower than most by about 290,000. With the lower inputs, throughputs coming through in panel numbers. General revenue is a little bit lower, mainly in regards to investment revenue streams. Obviously, with the first 6 months not being able to apply overdue rates interest has an effect overall, so about 87,000. Town planning revenue is the other way, so it's a $93,000 increase, higher than expected section 94 and 94A contributions, which is quite good. So developments are happening, and also the statutory fee attached to those developments. So that's a good win coming through. Also, we've received an additional grant funding for the online planning portal platform. So just to progress that along, so put a bit more infrastructure and training around that actual planning portal. So it's quite good. Sporting grounds and revenues increased there by about $460,000, and it's driven mainly by some additional funding we've received. Obviously, the Stronger Country Community Fund number 3, we're going to get some of those funds coming in now. Plus, also the Crown Lands Department has provided some funds for the Merriwell Showground and Merriwell Racecourse, which will be finalised next year. So those
It will go into the next year.
correct, yeah. But we've received the funds up front, so they'll go off into an RA and bring back into next year's bill. So that's quite good. The non-operating revenue and expenses is down at the moment by nearly $500,000. Still a bit lagging with the utilisation on the plant, so it's down by about 360, and the quarry revenue is down by about 140. Effectively, we're starting to drag the queue around the kiln again now, which hopefully will push those revenue streams back up. And also with the crashing plant.
QN? Or what I'm asking is, will all of the material that's coming out of there that's sort of going on surface, will go through that crushing plant? The larger rocks and things like that can go as a base, but definitely not on top of it. That's good. And that will be higher. So in other words, that will become then a cost on top of just getting the material out of the QN.
That's correct.
Is it significant or
It is not cheap.
right? Maybe we might, next introduction, we might just have some detail on that, if that's possible, just to know some of our costs.
Yeah.
Possibly.
The PA is in process, so it's still a sort of assessment process.
That's not going to be, us getting that well out of the QN.
We're utilising it.
Okay, so moving in the operating expenditure, like the operating revenue side of things, it's nearly line ball situation, but obviously there's some movements within the mix of all the service entities. The fleet operation costs are down by about 180,000, which is but more or less the repair, maintenance, and fuel consumption at this stage is a little bit low, which is quite good. So repairs on the equipment running pretty solidly at the moment, so that's good.
Not grading your road.
Well, utilisation's down, so we can get the machines out and about.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
The stormwater drainage is lower by about $77,000. So it's just
not done, I
not undertaking those works at this point. Waste landfill charges and they're up a little bit by about 122, and just with a bit higher in curbside collection and the state levy, we've got a bit more material going into the actual facility, so we have to pay a bit more in state levy. We received a fair bit of revenues, which we've taken a vote up for in previous months for that, so it's only just up a little bit. Town planning, planning, health and building control, their costs are a lot lower by about 185,000, so we've got a bit extra in revenue streams and also lower in costs. So, and the reduced costs of money, there's a number of vacancies within the environmental planning department at this point in time, so they need to be filled to continue pumping away with those TAs and certificates. Aerodrome operational costs are higher by about $112,000, so we need to really review those costs and work out
There is some costs that are being charged to operational that actually relate to the project. For example, I've picked up the cleaning of the terminal, which we're hiring, which is really costly by the project. So there's lots of overtime incurred because of the works. Operational, but funded through the project.
Need to vote on it.
Just the way the same way we fund the rent of the.
right. So ultimately, there's a lot more cost in regards to wages and that. Overview of the facility. So we need to go through it. A bit of a concern that those costs have jumped up. So
I must say the airport looks absolutely brilliant. The reports from flying in the base day, like 14, 15 visiting planes, was all positive.
Yeah.
But we've got to be very mindful.
The number of planes that were in there, they weren't just little Cessna 180s,
Some of the jets.
and the bigger planes. That could not take place.
So-
That's great.
Yeah. So through the chair, that's a great example of where we've had to supplement additional resource because obviously, given the volume of planes that were coming in, and these were VIPs, making sure that everyone has a great experience. So there is a cost associated with that.
Positive. Very positive. Can just back up on the fleet operational costs, and perhaps it's not appropriate now, the change from selling to plant and replacing plant with lease, is that possible to just clarify some of that? In other words, how is that going to actually, it's a pretty hot topic, to benefit us in not only in the short term, but the long term. It probably is a longer conversation.
We're doing the work.
Yeah, that's right, but I
But we
wish
can go through the process and give you an overview of why and what happens, because no operational side of things have to change. Everything stays exactly the same, as long as the cash flow drives.
just showing how that is going to benefit us and give them that amount. Okay, well,
Yep.
that's we could.
We just take that to Alice. Not a worry. The other items included in here is public library costs, lowered by about 77,000. Obviously, we've pulled away from the regional library now, so we've got some collection acquisitions still currently outstanding. And the costs have been a little lower, which is quite good. So it's a win for the council. Bridge maintenance is lower by about 120,000. And those maintenance costs will probably slow up into an RA side of things. Mainly with regards to a lot of that maintenance, we won't be doing too much maintenance, given that we're replacing 14 bridges coming forward. So it's one of those items that we might have to take a bit of savings on. The RMS State Road contract's higher than budget by about $200,000 at the moment. The actual revenue streams for that's coming through in May. So we've done additional work. So we've actually had a bit more individual price work sort of out there, which has been quite good. And also our routine maintenance is higher than what we anticipated. So we get the revenue streams on the other side of that. So that's a bit of a win for council. The water supply operational costs from Marundi and Scone are also higher by about $250,000. And those costs, we're going to have to go through and review those costs to make sure that those renewals aren't going into that maintenance area. So we'll be doing that over the course of the next month.
Just Government Place is mentioned, right?
Government Place costs, it's coming along okay. Yeah, it's within reason coming through. So we've taken up a number of votes to cover off some of the costs in there coming out of the last couple of months. But it's getting to a position now where we're sort of on the upper. So hopefully we'll see some trends going up. Obviously we've got some appointments that may come through very shortly that we'll take the facility to hopefully get in front.
And the room that was set aside from COVID.
It's full, I think.
That's back
Full use, yeah, back in use. So we'll get the benefit from that room down. Great. You want to say anything else there, Matt? Yep.
Very full.
Okay. Yeah. So the main mover in the actual positive variance is the capital works area. So as we can see here, the sporting grounds, it's lower by about 260. It's improved from last month, which was about 500 last month. So obviously those projects are really starting to ramp up to get finalised by the end of the year. Airport development is lower by about 480. A little bit of timing. We've only just received the last final bill in the Darracon. So that's for the airside work. So it showed up, which is effectively that amount of money. So that's cleared that away.
And the drainage works down the bottom.
Through the chair, we have we've got designs done for the works, and those designs have been sent back and we've got a site agreement with Kevin Beard. We'll have the works take place in the property to drain water to the retention pond, and also to establish an
Costs.
no, I haven't got a rough idea of costs. We are doing a gravel area on the site, which is quite cool.
We're doing or done? Doing.
We're doing, I think, goes contractor.
Beautiful.
We've got a design for that, it's all scoped out. The contractor was concerned about cutting over the land because it's still, the ground was still soft after the recent rain. So it's between, I've got the contractor talking to, which is Reforge, talking to Gavin here directly, and so when they think it's dry enough, they'll go in and do that.
Well done, because, and he did get really hampered by that flood event. Because of drainage. He's pretty laid back sort of fellow, but he was getting a little toey. That's what he kept saying, just communication.
We have got a report here.
I know.
Okay, moving through the Arndale Brook Bridge, a little bit unspent at the moment, but we've got a few costs coming through that will finalise that project off. So it'll come in within budget, which is quite good. Cullen Road, its works are continuing along. It's just been delayed slightly with the wet weather coming through, so it's behind by about 170.
Just on that, the wet weather, the cause of all that, it seems to be backwards and forwards like a go-go. Seem to be there and gone and back again.
That's predominantly, yeah, the reason.
Wet weather. Must be a lot more rain.
So
Okay.
it gets affected pretty.
So sewer, small to medium projects, works on the mains renewal. It's a little bit behind at this point in time, so we're just reviewing those costs to see what we're going to push back into the 2021 and 22 year. Murrurundi New Reservoir, it's actually ahead of schedule at the moment, so it's taking along quite well, so its costs are continuing on, so that should be finalised hopefully by the end of the year.
Fully in the year.
Definitely.
Yeah, they'll finish, their plan is that I think next Friday they demobilise, pack up and go.
And the water small and medium projects, they're lower by about $600,000. So there's also been a few delays in a number of projects there. So they'll be evaluated and deferred to the 21-22 year. So a lot of those ones will be done in May. So overall, as you can see, with the net position, there's been no variation onto the bottom line. So it's still seems a relatively balanced budget. So we're continuing to review the positions with a number of those items that we mentioned earlier, the budgetary pressures. So we'll continue doing that to the back end of the year. And we'll critically evaluate the capital works program again coming into May and make the appropriate proposals for any votes or surrenders coming through so that we can bring those into the 21-22 DPOP when and finalise it off for next year. So with the bank funds sitting at the moment about $28 million, so and our investments are pretty well the same number, so we're about 100,000 at the end of April. Capital expenditure report. So as you can see, 42.5 million is our revised budget, over 67.2. Capital spend to date is only 24.2 million, so it's only sitting at 57%. So obviously, we'll probably have some more projects obviously coming out the back end of the program. So we'll be looking at moving those in May to provide a more realistic number at the end of May where we're going to sit with the capital works program. Apart from that, moving into just more or less the attachments attached there, just to give you an overview of the numbers coming through for service entities. So as you can see, there's a number of votes going through for this month, more or less with some increases in grant funding that we received. We've more or less moved that into RAs, and also we've moved a bit of the capital works around already, the ones we've known. We've looked at a couple of the business entities, the early learning, the childcare areas, and also the sale yard areas, and there's some votes in there for those ones. And if you look straight after those summary pages on 83 through to 84 is the list of votes that are happening for the current month. And as it sees down the bottom there, the variations are 0. Then further on, so if you want to have a look at that, any questions in regards to those votes?
Through the chair, Matt, I was wondering, have we heard from the Catholic Church what's happening? Have they got a schedule or a time frame?
Paul Sush,
Yes.
there's a report coming back to council this month.
Any other questions in regards to those votes?
So, yeah, Sally, I'm ticking up. That's my understanding.
Yeah, we're seeing about an average through the chair, sorry, about 700 per week, and that's that's effectively what we've built into next year's budget.
That includes, so it's about 600 for the regular sales plus the private straight across.
Well, our goal is to get to 700 for the fat sale, and then increasing the number of special and store sales, which will, obviously help to pump that up.
Still going to take a couple of years. But the confidence is there because the
Five years for cattle.
If you look back to 2017, 73,000 through, so there's no reason why we can't get back to that service eventually.
I think we'll get in there earlier than that because around my area, people hadn't bought a considerable amount of cattle in. My neighbour sold all his breeders, and he's back up to 200.
You're right.
So, I'm confident we'll
Well, that's a good barometer of the industry. So I think there's opportunities, David, in attracting more of the special sales.
Yeah, there is. So I had a conversation with Brett the other day, and there is a particular special sale that's generally run at Tamworth, and they've indicated that they would like to bring the sale down to scale. So that's a good indicator that word's getting out. Obviously, the Thompson Longhorn promotional video is something that we really need to get on the front foot with because it gives a great perspective of the facility.
Must have good facilities to do those.
But, I mean, like a lot of these projects, it's building the shop for the future. Might not be feasible now, but obviously it will be in a couple of years' time and into decades into the future.
How do we get more of our cattle from this side sold?
That's what I was asking yesterday.
Yeah, well, I think we have to break the nexus of a little bit of anti-council sentiment to do that.
It would seem to me that without being asked, a lot of narrow producers would prefer to drive past us. So on the way to town.
Perhaps now that the road budget might be more.
So it's funny you say that. The other night there was a lady in a closing in the front. Still, most of their cattle in Temple. I had a very good mate up the other day that said, why don't you try scanning? He did on Tuesday, I talked to him Tuesday night. At $6.20 a pair of wieners. And he believed it was better than Temple. But he was traveling on the back road through Pages Creek. I said, well, there's a prime example, and I think we need to sell that. And
Somehow
help us help you. If this works, we'll get those numbers.
Somehow we
We'll
could
keep that up. It's money that can go into it.
identify the local breeders that are actually exporting and maybe tap them on the shoulder or just
Send them there.
Well, through the chair, if I may, I'd like to have a
Tap them on the shoulder or maybe the back.
with you to get those gentlemen's details because the testimonial will go a long way. Right? And whether he agrees to use his name, but I think, using the example of someone who's basically had a positive result.
And I think you'll find the same with the manager of Ellison, Robert Degg. He mentioned about why 2 Mullet Road wasn't getting sealed. I said, well, do you send those 30 deckers of cattle off 2 Mullet to our facilities or well, no, most of them Throsby or Wingham or whatever. But he did send 3 loads into our zone.
How did you go?
I think so, yeah. So, I mean, we may need to do a little bit of a tour around just so we can to some of those people. And is there an incentive there somewhere? I don't know. Is there something where you can say, look, on this month of September,
we might be able to have
we're offering,
Help us help you.
we are offering something in September
for new customers.
for new customers. Anyway, we'll let you know about it.
Okay, good.
Righto, moving through then on our 86 to 87, so just for the bank and investments, just to note those, where our investments sit. And if you look from pages 88 through to.
Good one, Pat, too, because I don't want to break it again. You guys on the page?
88 through to page, what is it? 100, you'll see the actual capital works summary, so it's just an
Can I just make a little side comment on Scone? It's not a cheap market to go and buy. You're better off to buy a Tamworth or Gunnerside, you're going to bring things home. So I'll just put that out there. It's known that if you're going to buy a lot of land, we've hardly bought out of Mayorport Capital Law, you don't buy the Scone because it's too big.
Well, I'm going to turn that around now. If it's dear in Scone to buy, why wouldn't you sell in Scone if you get more money?
You use less fuel going out to town.
So we'll be expecting a load from the Campbell station doing the.
We would like that.
Okay,
Just before we move on, just a comment that I shouldn't make when we're talking about bridge maintenance and then the spend there. Don't forget the bridges that aren't being replaced.
correct,
Like the one that I bicycle over 5 days a week.
yes. Which we'll leave it, we'll go for that round two.
Ice falling off it, yeah. It rattles. It rattles and shakes that much. Don't forget that.
No, and then that's one that we probably, when the second round of the bridge replacement program comes around again, we'll be trying to earmark that. Obviously, one very one. I would say,
Those are nice.
Mr. Tool showed a interest on that one.
And we've got to keep the old one up
correct.
to speed because it's heritage.
Correct.
It's quite painful, so.
Righto, let's move on. Any more questions? You finished on that? Any more questions on that financial summary? Okay, we've got 5 parts of the recommendations. I might move on.
The all the $20,000 for the bridges, is that just design?
Survey, right.
Survey.
And
They're doing that for all of them.
And we really need to be on the front foot with that. It's statewide.
Yeah.
If you're a bridge building guy, you're going to be flat out.
Yeah, just noticed we're going to get all the pre-construction done before June 30th, so. Always about next year.
Plus,
Even in stage-
if you're a
stage
bridge
one.
construction company, you probably need to think about processes.
We're probably looking at trying to get tender to the July meeting, and August won't be meeting. So we need to probably try and get it through to the July meeting at the very latest.
That's for the 6th. That's for the 6th. First day.
Possibly 9. Given that Scott's Creek, we're trying to bring from the 23 year to the 22 year.
Chris's project manager.
On that, how many bridges and how many are sort of big culverts?
Through the chair, there's one big bridge at Aberdeen, the old steel bridge down.
Yeah, no.
Dartford, sorry.
The Dartford Bridge,
Dartford,
yes, that could be really used somewhere else. Like go to White Cross maybe, or it's a pretty good structure, I'm not sure.
Through the chair, there's a report going to the Heritage Committee on that.
Because I mean, it was 100 not that long ago, and made in America.
That's correct, yeah. Steel was manufactured in the United States.
Typically reuse that over the White Cross.
My understanding through the chair is that the bridge was going to remain where it is, and the new bridge is going to be constructed nearby.
Just on that, Joel, there's not that, most of them are structures, aren't they?
Yes, most of them are, like a lot of them single span 12 metres. So they'll be, a lot of them will be pretty fast, you know, drop in. And there's some that may be others. The exact number, I'm not sure. If I could make a comment, Mr. Chair, recently finished Armadale Bridge, and in part of the contract closeout meeting, I seek a sort of feedback on the information that we present in a tender to the bridge builders, and how does that compare with what they get from other councils? Because what we supply is the review with the tender. We supply the review of environmental factors, survey information, the geotech report, and so the hydraulics, the waterway calculations. And he said that we're one of the best that, as far as the information we provide it all up front. There's no guessing. Therefore, what that means is they don't have to cost in extra risk into their price. And he said some councils, they don't, and a road design. We provide, like Gavin, you expect those road design so they know where the bridge has to tie in on the road. He said some councils don't even do that, and they don't even know where to put the bridge. So, so that's why this cost that's just been raised as to we're getting for these 14 bridges, we're doing all the RES, the survey, the geotech, the design, all these stuff. Yeah, they'll get bridge will get a tighter cost and shorter time period because they know they can just go.
Well done. Well done.
Yes,
Okay, any more questions on that? Going to move to those 5 points. Move Councillor Campbell, second Councillor Fisher. In favour? Okay, Barry. Over to page 101. Yes? Down Airport project update. Who have we got? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you will be aware, this report is based on the monthly report we get from Public Works Advisory. So if you look at the front table there, with the current period versus previous periods, there was quite a lot of items that were amber. And they're all like green this month, although the risk and issue, I'll just point out, it does have an A for amber. And that was based on the handover of the staff with Joe and Al leaving the stepping in. So that was still rated as an amber. But all the rest of them, my advice to them was that should go to green from this month. I think
Green on the side.
yeah, my instruction to them was to make it green.
Who's the fellow taken over from, excuse me, Mr. Chair, who took over from Joe? That one we haven't yet.
Well, construction. Well,
Oh, I
this is
see.
a construction issue, and
This is
moving through the report, this period's progress, on the warbirds, the installation of piles, so there were screw piles put in for the slab, for the whole building. They've been done, and they've been concrete pole caps have been run in place. And this week we started to pour the floor slab. The first pouring on Tuesday. Yes. It'll take a couple of weeks to pour the slab. They're doing section and leaving section. They're doing section and leaving section. And once the concrete's cured enough, they'll come and do it in 20 months. So they're going very well out there. And we've had the engineer come and do the 3-4 inspections and get sign off. We've got very hard. We did the design for this thing. Air side, all of the contracted works are complete. They were completed on the 23rd of April. Was the completion of the physical work, and then it was the 28th of April when all of the documentation was provided. Next period for the warbirds, fire suppression and landscape. We're reviewing those designs. We've had a first pass through them. We'll probably finish those next week. The floor slab, as I said, will continue being poured. All this got their delivery to site and assembly of structural steel. Since this report's been written, all the structural steel has been delivered. There are some issues with some of the paintwork and some of the steel that's been raised and it's been addressed by the contractor. Airside civil works, all contract works that completed with Garricon, those drainage works downstream that we discussed just a short while ago in this meeting will be completed, and I hope that by the time we sit here in a month's time, they'll be completed. And part of that also, the 20 by 20 pad on the helicopter, near the helicopter pads there, for the engines to rev up, sorry, the airplanes to rev up their engines. What we're finding is that because they're revving their engines with the brakes on, the wheels are pushing on the tarmac, or the bitumen seal, it's causing it to move. So they're going to mill out of section 20 by 20. So but I see.
Chris, just on that, yeah, that's the flight that we did with Matty Bakery a while back. On his twins, just to look at all that. You can certainly feel that when he was revving that up on the, you could actually hear the rocks. Some of the small stuff. That's brilliant. That and we've got a costing on that.
No, that's with Garricon now. Yep. To be costed. The plan is that they'll mobilise back in to do all the drainage works and that AC work.
And that's
some line.
Yeah, where we mill out, there will be some lines moved. So part of the scope of work is to read the lines.
I think if you're talking about the other issue with the planes actually park, I think you're going to say Mark, that was working reasonably well, and I think you want the planes going to park on their designated areas.
Oh,
Is there a bit of an
the
issue?
leading lines where they. Yeah, look, we've left that with Mark. It's an operational thing at the moment. That was what the master plan was designed as. I think it's an either or. Like if you've got a large plane that follows like two, if you've got small planes, go 1 and 3. But yeah, he's thinking about it. I talked to Mark probably 3 or 4 times a week. So far, he's just said, just leave it.
After I popped in after a couple just to see how the little neighbours, delighted with the feedback we had from they said they're not a group. So we talked about some lines. The other thing you mentioned was that people were taking shortcuts out of the hangars across the new grass.
Yes. Yes.
Needed towards some follow-ups or something.
Yes, through the chair. There's a lock on the gate next to the terminal there, the current terminal, because it just feeds through on straight onto the grass area.
Outside of the nappy, it's just cherry grass.
And he's putting some with going to purchase some of those woodfield barriers to stop people cutting across the grass. And also on Walter Pye Avenue, I'm proposing that we put some guide posts, just normal side guide posts lining Walter Pye Avenue to stop, discourage people, won't stop, but to discourage people from cutting the corners.
I think it's great, and around airspeed aviation, all that turf he's put down there, the drainage, it looks pretty impressive to what it was.
That grass probably needs to drop the water.
Yeah, I looked at it yesterday, actually. It does want to drop the water.
Okay.
And that turf.
It was the uncle of the lighting on the inventory was slopping it.
They didn't get to it yesterday, as it turns out. I spoke with Richard, but they were going to do that next week, early next week.
And the hot testing area, I was a bit concerned about drone, but it was drone really well. Mr. Rowan's fine.
In the engine testing thing, it's all on the gauge start. I mean, that's a lot better than a $500,000 shed. It's common sense. It looks neat and tidy.
Yeah, $70,000 solution in the area, waste that area that just.
I might see you, Chris, and get a few dot points to give this a little plug on the radio. I mean, that warm-up area, just those few things, engine testing bays and things like that. So those people out there, I think it's something else.
It's getting more and more positive.
Sort of through those two things.
Yeah. We still have got a lot of work to do with the aviation and vacuum centre. We're going to really work hard on that for opening.
Yeah, I've got.
Got it? Very good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving through the report. Critical issues for the month. For attention so
sorry, is the finalisation of the design for all this, and one big thing is the firefighting system. We had approaches from some of the businesses in the area about the firefighting system, the large tanks that they're putting on the warbirds can be used to service the precinct for firefighting, rather than each and every one having to have individual tanks.
The tank, Mr. Chair, I thought the oil tanks and new tanks that are going in have to have that particular connection to it that the firefighters can go in, whether it's on private or on land.
Through the chair, that's about reticulating so they can have fire hoses where required. That's their specialty. Yeah. We've talked amongst, we had a meeting with them, with senior management last Friday. We've since then gone back to the designers and we've said, is this possible? Like technically possible? Will it need increased pumps? And what sort of outlet pipe would be required? One option, I guess, if it is possible and council we want to decide to move forward on it. Now we're going to have to jump really quickly and put in underground piping to get clear of the warbirds footprint. Even if that's all we do for now is put piping, cap it off at the extremities of the warbirds site, so that what can be sorted out later on with costs and connections and things, at least the way stuff like that side.
The issue is because the airport's a water circulation system, the pressure coming, the mains pressure coming out from that site is not sufficient to operate a blast pressing system. So, the mains are unable to get their CC approved because of this issue. So, some other airports have their central, water tanks that are almost like a service precedent, and you could opt in by contribution. So, if we're going to develop the site, we need this issue sorted out, and it's probably clean solutions.
Yeah. Where's that water go if we don't do that? Once all those tanks are full, what happens? What are we going to use the tanks for if this doesn't happen?
We need those tanks for our building, because our building is the biggest one in the whole area.
Yep.
So the tanks are sized for our building.
For water, the fire protection of our building. So if they're going to draw out of it, and we're going to need additional tanks, are we?
No, we already have.
Yeah, but while we're drawing out of them, if there's no rain, do we only for firefighters that want water? Is that what they're saying? Like for the firefighters or only their buildings?
Firefighting in the building.
Firefighting and the building. In the building, yeah, right.
Internal sprinklers.
Yeah, right. It's not for the actual.
No.
Yeah, right.
They're going to do their own tanks.
Well, we don't follow that up. We all work together. As long as they all get the same.
That's right. It's going to be like an option. It's like connecting to it. So
Yeah, that's as long as they all get the same.
Not in. We've got to work out some kind of contribution system.
Yep.
So there is the burden to council, but this is still in the concept.
I don't know, you girls will handle that through.
Just to clarify, the tanks hold articulated by town water. Like if it gets used, they don't go to rain.
So it's set up with a flow.
They kept full all the time.
So as it comes out, it automatically tops up with town water.
So
Okay, so
the pressure's
there's-
okay to put tanks up, but not to run a sprinkler. Yeah, that's.
That sounds good. You fellas will sort that out. Sounds common sense.
How soon do you need to know
Within about 3 to 4 weeks, because the critical part of the build is the pouring of the slab across the hangar door in front of the hangar door. Slab and hangar has to go in before that. And that's about, I think it's scheduled for, so even before they prep work for it. Before you've got time. We're doing it as a priority and as a rush. And as I said, we've got the Kingston design to talk to their fire engineers on it. Figure out how to make it work.
Mike, just a question on Kingston. I'm very happy with
There you go.
They did that with.
Right. Keep moving.
So the SI, the contract completion date, the SI, as I said, they finished work on the 23rd of April and reached actual completion on 28th of April when they delivered all the documentation. The current approval completion date, there's a couple of extension times that just need tidying up. It should extend out to the 23rd of April. On the Warbirds, the anticipated completion date is 12th November there, but since this report's been written, they put in an EO2 day. They lost 2 half days. It was muddy. They couldn't do anything up there. They sent the guys home. Vouch for the state of the site out there during that wet weather, so they'll do by another day. And turning to page 107, let's see the implications. There is a DA modification in play for the firefighting tanks, the ones we're building here, and hopefully that approval may avoid any further out.
The chair won't be going to the council meeting. No, it's currently on exhibition. Comes off exhibition on the 2nd of June. So you need to push forward. Council may have to call an extraordinary council meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there any questions?
Just like Terracom,
Still trying to get agreements there.
bit of water line between the driveway.
That's,
Is that fixed or is that?
I mean, I don't know.
through the chair, there was Hayes. The story I've been told is all there when it happened, but Hayes agreed to let Derek and he said, "I'm going to access that part of the report." Hayes claimed that Derek needed to come back to do some repairs on the driveway. Derek wanted to demobilise and doing that. What I'm hoping will happen is when they remobilise to do drainage works, they'll have all the
Well done. No more questions? Council received report and note of information from mover. Moved Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Okay. Going to be quick, isn't it? Slow them down a bit.
You got more questions there, council?
Councillor, questions or recommendation, notation only, yeah, let's make over that. Any other councillor questions?
No, you said we talk about the opening of the Warbirds Centre later.
well.
No more questions, read, paper or